Hello, today I have coach and therapist Katherine Jones. And before we get going, I'm just going to read to you a little bit of information about Katherine. So Katherine coaches clients to understand the bigger picture of life's experiences, specifically in relation to the soul's perspective of the story and being able to make sense of this in everyday life. Katherine's background is all about the narrative. Having been a television producer for 15 years, working on major primetime series around the world, and having been an actress focusing on stage and theatre performance, Katherine understands the way in which we create drama and stories and then play them out in our lives. With Katherine's intuitive guidance, she helps clients to recognize the script they keep playing or saying, which keeps the drama going. Katherine combines her theatrical expertise with a knowledge of psychotherapy and counselling to guide clients to bridge the change between living life on autonomous, playing the same story, to understanding and feeling more alive, more in alignment and true to yourself. Katherine's own story, as someone who has always felt different and out of place, has learned to understand herself with what is termed neurodiversity, guides clients by helping them embrace and understand their uniqueness, to access their soul and divine gifts and awaken to the bigger picture. And Katherine is someone who's always a joy to be in the company of, always getting great energy from you and always fun as well to be with. So thanks very much for coming on, Katherine. That was quite a sort of mini biography of you and your life, just to try and condense everything down. So just a few words and terms that were in that. First one was the narrative. Can you maybe explain a little bit about what you mean by our narrative?
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for having me on your show. This is a series of talks about health and holistic health. So thank you for having me here. Yeah, I mean, I think the narrative it's not a term that I've coined. It is a dynamic that plays out in our lives. It's a story. We all have a story. I was born, my parents, are X, Y, and Z. My siblings are A, B, and C. And this may have happened to me. There might have been experiences and events when you're younger that could be seen as traumatic and were perceived and felt as traumatic. And then you go through school and you could have experienced just a difficult or struggles or hardships. And then you go into, so this is the narrative. And it's almost like we form in our first 0 to 7 years of life, we form the story of how it's perhaps going to be playing out. So if you were always the child that was told, no, you can't have that, sit down or shut up or stay in the corner, or don't be seen, children are meant to be seen, not heard. If you have come in and your first 7 years, you've learned from the environment around you, you've learned, oh, I mustn't touch that. Oh, I mustn't say that. Oh, I'm not allowed to speak. Oh, I'm not allowed to feel. So in that 7 years, you've got, your brain is a sponge. It's just going, it's forming its opinion about the world and the environment it lives in. And that's not to say that your parents aren't wonderful and haven't tried their hardest. And it's not to say that your brothers and your sisters or your grandparents or the school or whoever are bad people. It just means that we create a script, a story about our lives based on perhaps early traumatic experiences, let's say it like that.
Yeah, I mean, that links in absolutely spot on with what I would tend to say to my clients, I just probably use a different term in talking about beliefs, but it's exactly the same process that we're talking about here, isn't it?
Absolutely, Anne, and it's those early beliefs. And what I find, and because of my experience, you know, I've made television documentaries for 15 years and was an actress, so I learned how to write, and I learned how to film. You would tell the story from beginning, middle to end, you know, and within a documentary you wanted the drama. We wanted to see that crisis point before we go to the commercial break, you know. Are they going to make it? Is it going to happen? Oh, what happens next? And so everyone's kind of energy, you can almost feel your energy up here. Is it going to up? And then you kind of go into the commercial break and you want to stay hooked. And that's the big thing about stories. We stay hooked in them because of the way they run.
Do you think for some people, they almost enjoy in their own life the drama, or they've become maybe even so used to it they wouldn't know life without that drama?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we tend to have a really bad experience and then we want to seek help. You know, something happens. I want to say something happens to us and we go, right, I need help now. I can't work out what's gone on. I might be on medication. I might be self-medicating. My life might feel like it's falling apart. And I think those are the moments that propel people to seek out therapists or coaches or whatever form of therapy they want to go down, you know, the route to go down. And I think there are probably lots of people that just go, well, let's just get on with it. We don't, you know, let's just don't see any need to change, don't have that in their perspective. And so in some way, I think we're all unique when we make that choice of going, I want to change. I mean, it has to come from within. We have to have that absolute, this is not right. I do not feel good about myself. I'm not happy. My life isn't the way I want it to be. Whether I'm with a partner, whether you're, you know, you've got family or you've not, you get to that point where you go, enough. I want to change.
I find that whenever I've spoken to you about any sort of life situation, whether it's somebody else's, whether it's mine or whether it's your own, there's always a very sort of, this is how it is, and we will get through this, and but very spiritual as well, as sort of almost like a very strong belief in whatever, whether it's the universe or whatever, that this is fine, we're on track. Is that correct?
Ah, well, I love the fact that you have it. Excuse me. I love the fact that you have a strong belief in yes, that I'm kind of more, I do look at the more spiritual side of things now. And I think I've had to go through that as a journey. So my early experience, I had a breakdown before I turned 30 and I walked around crying and I couldn't function. You know, I was tired all the time. So energetically, my body was just drained. And actually speaking to my mum just recently, I was talking about sleep or whatever it was, and she said, well, I thought you had ME, you know, I really was worried. So I knew I was at that crisis point, and I hadn't even turned 30, and I had a great career. I was living in London, I was traveling the world, and what could be wrong with you? And you go, but I'm not happy. I mean, there's just something not right. So I think we look at those early experiences and we find therapy, like I just said. So my journey was to find a therapist. I did psychotherapy. I then moved and went into doing 2 years training in psychotherapy, meanwhile still having therapy as part of the experience, and then did counseling skills. And then I kind of just sort of parked it for a while, but that gave me the foundation, and it gave me a different language. It sort of gave me the permission to reparent myself with the therapist. It gave me the ability to see that some of my early experiences actually were traumatic, and it wasn't just okay to get on with life, you know. And I think, you know, I think when we start to open up, we start to work through some of those early patterns, early beliefs, early traumas. And I call it a narrative, because if you've discovered that you were always playing the victim, or you were always the one that was bullied, or you were always the one that was put down, or you were always the one that was X, Y, and Z. I believe that we carry that as a kind of a script, and there are words that we always say, you know, we always vocalize it, and we have it as a narrative, so that becomes our story. And it's almost like we operate from that position. Oh, like the guy down the road always gets the promotion, I never do, you know. Or oh yeah, well, you know, my neighbor, I mean, gosh, it's just like keeping up with the Joneses, or, you know, they've got this, or it's always this. So it's like, are you looking at things in a kind of a pessimistic way, or an optimistic way? And I think the pessimistic viewpoint shows the language of what's really going on underneath. Then perhaps sorry, and I know you're going to say something, but the early beliefs of, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy, I'm not. And it's always the I'm not that kind of precedes anything else.
Absolutely. And it keeps you unhappy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It keeps you in a cycle. So it keeps you in a process of kind of repeating, pattern, repeat. And then you see it around you in your life, and you go, well, why is this still happening to me? Why am I still being treated like this? What's going on? So my work evolved in as much as that I did the counselling and I did the psychotherapy training, but I wasn't ready for myself to commit to that. I'm going to be a therapist, which is why I went off and trained as an actress as well, and then did 7 years on stage, which was brilliant for me, because I was the one that never felt comfortable in front of a camera. I never felt comfortable in talking in a group. You know, I felt really sick, actually, I would sit and shake and be really quiet in a group of 25 people in my psychotherapy training. I'd be sitting there going, and it was almost like, you know, you want to say something and you got all these feelings, but it's maybe too painful, it was too much, it was overwhelming for me to share. And it's also not who I am. I'm kind of really fun. So it was nice when you said, oh, you know, Katherine's always a fun person to be around. I also see the joy in life, and I think that's been my journey. We always find those stepping stones, and get to where we need to get.
I definitely sense that you do look or seek out the joy in life, and you seem to find that quite easy. But just touching on a few things that you'd said before, and I just made a few notes, talking about those traumatic early experiences and those beliefs, and that's a good place to start, isn't it? If somebody is recognizing what you and I would probably call a pattern in their lives, this keeps happening to me, then that's a great thing to address, isn't it?
You just asked me about, you know, where is the place to start? And I think it you know, when we start looking at a belief or a pattern, I know that some are maybe they're very early and created very early in our life, like we've said. But when we start at that, then we can just start to see how that's played out in our life. And it is a great place to start, you know, being able to work out what that pattern is and wanting to change it. But I think with everything in life, it's got to come from you. You've got to want to change. You've got to want to recognize that there's something that's not sitting well for you, that life isn't how you wanted it to be, and then go, and I want to change it. I am going to do something about it. Because the bottom line with any therapy, I think, is that it is about you. It's about you wanting to do it. No one is going to do it for you at all.
And I think that with, you know, these sort of beliefs and these patterns, if we can bring it back to us rather than it being so and so did that to me, that keeps happening to me, rather than it being happening to you. If you can bring it back to you, and you become more powerful, then if you can say, oh, that old belief has been triggered again. So my example is my big belief is people let you down, and that's how I felt, and I still get the feeling sometimes. But when I get the feeling, what I tend to say to myself is, oh, that old chestnut. It's that belief that I have still got very deep in me, and I feel like it's my biggest, deepest belief, that until I've released it, then I will still sense that, and I will still feel it, and I will still believe it. But just the first step for me is I've got awareness of that, and therefore when I feel that, I just know, okay, it's still a problem for me, I haven't released it fully. Is that sort of how you tend to, maybe, what's your first step? Is it different to that, or is it very similar?
I think it's very similar, Anne. I think that's what the journey of a therapist and coaching other people is to recognize. Once we build into it, once we become aware and consciously aware, we go, oh, I've got it. You know, I'm not sitting here like Buddha. I'm not saying I'm completely I don't know, I'm completely sorted. I recognize when I feel something, a trigger. I still have those. We all do, because that's part of our journey in exploring and understanding the self. It's like, oh, like you just said, oh, I've got that. I've recognized I'm still feeling some energy, something in my body, and maybe you've tensed. You know, maybe you just feel a bit angry, and maybe you feel that suddenly, and you don't know what it is. So when you can name it, so when we become aware of it, we can go, oh, I know that I'm still feeling angry or sad or frustrated, and we use one of those emotion words to understand the feeling that the body is kind of all getting held into, and then we can talk about it and understand the belief. What is that belief that's held there? And I think that's always the starting point. We can walk along the street and there's a hole in the road or a big puddle, and we can keep walking along. We can see it and we go, oh yeah, go round it. And the next time, go round it. And then one time we might not see the puddle or the hole because we're just thinking about something else and we fall into it. You know, that's what life is. We're always acting and reacting. And it's an internal reaction to an external action. And that's what I learned as an actress. You know, to play a character, to play a part, to really understand and learn, we would look at what the author had said. So whether that was Shakespeare or Chekhov, you know, two great masters, it was what are they saying? What is it that the characters are saying? And then what is going on inside for that person to even say what they're saying? And so we would really look at them and go, okay, here I am. We know all this history. We've got all this history about this person. We know what's just happened to them in their life. We know what's going on. We know where they've come from. We know that their mother and their father have just died, you know, or they've fought each other, or there's a war going on and they've left home. I mean, I'm thinking of Hamlet. You know, it's one of the best kind of scripts to understand, to be or not to be. That is the question. Now, you can say it like, oh, to be or not to be, that is the question. That isn't it. That's, if that actor is deciding to do that, it's like, okay, well, Hamlet sounds a bit happy, but actually Hamlet is actually talking about whether to live or to die. So really what is going on inside that person that is having a conversation. And the reason why I say that is because this is what we do. We speak, or we don't speak. We know we might physicalize, whether that's an action of drinking too much, or going and, you know, shopping too much, having something external, not talking, not communicating, or screaming and shouting. We, you know, whatever it is we externalize, is because something is going on inside that is not comfortable.
I love how you make that connection between the emotional side of things and the physical side, because I still think sometimes that's not talked about a great deal, particularly outside of the holistic sort of world, if you like. And you talked just a little bit earlier about fatigue, and there was concern that you might have ME. And with the sort of that side of things, it is that every sort of, if you like, stress becomes internalized within the body. So we will feel it or experience it in different ways. Sometimes it might be a bit of back pain, or your jaw. I mean, how many people, so many people suffer with a tight jaw, or their neck and their shoulders, because we just carry the burden. So when someone's experiencing a physical issue, should they maybe just have an awareness also of what is going on for them in other areas of their life? So what have they been feeling lately? What stresses have they got? That sort of thing. Is that a good place to start?
I think it's a good place to start being the observer of what is going on in your life. And I kind of quite often work with clients and say, just be your own detective. So when you're feeling something, when something is going on, start asking yourself, notice, I feel that. And it might be that it gives you more information. And so with your question about the physical, and yes, if you're suddenly going, ow, why am I tensing my jaw so much? Why am I holding my shoulders like that, hunchback? Why? Because I'm stressed. Why am I holding my body? And the body, my work is mind, body, and soul. We're not just a mind. You can't just think things through. You feel, emotionally, we feel. We have a body that is our vehicle, our kind of the car we get into every day. It's a super system that is information, because it's kind of doing what it needs to do for you. And I think a lot of the time we forget to build all three in. We just maybe think, oh, if I sort out what I'm thinking, I'm sort out my mind. But actually your heart sends more signals to your brain than your brain sends to your heart. So your heart is this place of feeling, of emotions. And I'm a heart math coach and trainer as well. So being able to come into that space where you start to breathe and allow your breath to become, and your heartbeat to become more regulated, helps with your stress levels, because it changes the autonomic nervous system. So you have a nervous system. We all have nervous systems. It runs up the spine, through the cranial, and into the head. So when we're feeling stressed or anxious or angry or sad, or I don't dismiss those feelings. I think feel them, because it's information. Don't try and be positive out of them. I don't believe in that. I believe in being with what you're feeling, but absolutely noticing and observing it, and going, okay, I'm feeling stress. Your autonomic nervous system will do what it will be in stress. It will be adrenalized, it will be cortisol, it'll be pumping out through your system, and it will last for 6 hours. How do we use tools and techniques to just become present and not go into this absolute immediate fight or flight? And you've got to remember that the body is doing it with you. It's your information as well as your emotions and your thoughts. It's all of it together.
Well, you preempted my next question, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking, I know that you use lots of different techniques, and probably have sort of in some way adapted to your own sort of way of working. And you just mentioned techniques there. So if someone has sort of come to you for the very first session, let's say, and Katherine, I've got this problem going on in my life, where would you go from there?
It's a really hard one to kind of say where you would go immediately when you worked with somebody. I mean, first and foremost, I wouldn't just do one session. I think, having personally gone through and had to understand myself in a bigger way, that's been 20-30 years, you know, since I've been doing that. So we all evolve, and we all are looking, or maybe searching, to understand ourselves if we've gone through something that's traumatic. And we've got many layers, like an onion. Maybe we're all onions, but we've got many layers, you know. So I would really need to be with the person, but I have different techniques. So I'm a color therapist. I work with a system called the color mirrors system, which works with color, aromatherapy oils, crystals, and it's oil and water, and our bodies hold in a very cellular way, which is exactly why perhaps if your family also held their shoulders up like this, or always clenched their jaw, you know, perhaps then you're doing it because you're holding on to that pattern of trauma that your family have. And I think I've got the color mirror system, and I use that really as a foundation, because color just, you know, is information. And sometimes we don't know, like we talked about being aware. There are times when people are just don't understand what is going on. And so by choosing a color, you can start to see a picture or a pattern playing out. But also, I really believe in finding tools and techniques that people can self-manage, self-regulate. Because when you go away from your therapist, how you're left at home, and you're still then maybe triggered by the partner or the children or the situation with the neighbors or the dog or work or whatever it is. We want to start to find those tools and techniques that help you when you're not, when for you to self-manage, to look after yourself, because that is ultimately, I don't want to see anybody forever. I want people to be working and going, oh my gosh, I get it, you know, I get it.
Talking of simple techniques from home, actually, before we do that, I'm just going to show, I've got a couple of the colour bottles. Hopefully, don't know if my jumper's in the way, I can see that. That's Reconnection. And then we've got the G3 bottle, which is Return from Atlantis. So we've got the copper over the turquoise. So that's sort of what you were talking about in terms of colour bottles. Is there a simple technique that you could maybe do now, just to sort of show, if you like, anyone listening in, as something that they could maybe do for themselves, maybe in a moment of stress, or if not, maybe in terms of just tracing maybe what they're feeling and understanding themselves better?
That is a really tricky question in lots of ways, because sometimes it's never just one thing, is it? But I do use techniques like EFT, and I think it's a really great one. So, you know, sometimes when we're starting to go through an emotional response, we just want to go, okay, what is going on? I feel really angry, and just go, and I would just go, all this anger. Okay, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling really, really angry. I'm feeling so angry, you know, go into it. So part of my experience as being an actress is to actually really feel it. And I've said before, don't dismiss if you're feeling angry, don't dismiss it. I would say go and find a way to process it without harming other people, because we're not encouraging, you know, as a therapist, I would never encourage you to just go and explode down, you know, at the neighbor or the driving the car, or the boss. You know, find a way to self-manage, and EFT can just be a really great one. Okay, I'm just feeling really angry, I'm feeling so angry. Okay, what do I do? I'm feeling angry, and you can feel it in your body start to go, okay, I'm feeling angry, where am I holding it in my body? So that's just kind of a real introduction. And then I would say, what color is it? I mean, I would have the color mirrors bottles as well. And I've got number 1 here, which is the sun, which is yellow. I've got number 2, which is the moon. You know, we've got blue. So we've got this sort of these colors, coral, 3. So we've got color as a therapy, has been used for centuries, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's not new. But what it does, color can almost, it sort of almost bypasses your conscious mind. So instead of you understanding why, it's about being able to just go, okay, at the moment I'm feeling yellow. Okay, this is what's going on. This is why I'm feeling angry. And if you were with a therapist, and especially a color mirrors therapist, you would start to say, okay, yellow represents just the psychology of yellow. You know, it represents the nervous system. It represents the spine. It represents ADHD. It represents addictions. It's about fear. It's about over-analyzing. It's about being too much in your head. And so once you start to go, oh, I'm quite a lot in my head, where is it that you've not maybe associating with feeling? So it might also be that you're holding this yellow. If you've identified yellow as your anger, you're holding it maybe in your stomach. Okay, so then you're feeling it in your stomach, and then what size is yellow, and where it, you know, how big is it, and what shape is it? So we can start to just work with somebody to just go, okay, let's just calm, let's just bring it down. And yellow's a lot about fear. You know, that our language, yellow bellied. So our language has all these references to color already. And I would also say to somebody, okay, if you're in an office and tapping doesn't help you, then I would say, you know, just put your hand on your heart and just feel into your body, just really feel into your body, put your feet on the ground, because quite often when we're anxious or we've got something going on, we start to feel the energy, it comes up and up and up, and we don't stay grounded, and so the physical body gets all panicky and goes into its little own shock. You know, it goes into its own shock. And we have essences in the color mirror system. So, you know, these are handbag sized or man bag sized or pocket sized, and you spray one of these instantly and it will help your nervous system, because smell bypasses the conscious mind, and it is aromatherapy. It's intention, and I was going to say positive intention, but it's there to help you and to soothe you. It's a tool.
They are a brilliant release, the colour mirrors. I mean, that's how you and I met, wasn't it? I think it was the colour mirrors on the practitioner training. And it was only probably 2 months or less before that the colours were used on me for the very first time. And when I inhaled the essence, I was just amazed that whatever negative feeling I had at the time, the way I describe it is it just dissipated. And I thought it was strange, I thought it was weird, but I also thought it was brilliant. And that's why I did the training, was because of that experience. And then also the description of what the bottles meant for the ones I chose related to the various subjects that I was looking at were just so spot on. And it's exactly what you say, because my conscious mind is trying to understand this, because it's the first time I've come across it, and my conscious mind is going, this is weird. But I could not fail to acknowledge how brilliant it was. And then, you know, these colours are created by an amazing lady called Melissa Jolly, and her wisdom that comes into the wording. I know a lot of practitioners maybe don't use Melissa's specific wording. I do use it a lot. And I think for me, it certainly makes, there's so much wisdom in it, and there's so much sense in it. And it does also, I feel, get into that subconscious. It does something extra. And sometimes I think we live in a world where we have to understand everything that happens. And that's, I think, why a lot of people are reluctant to go down a lot of holistic therapy routes, because they don't understand it. I get that exact same thing with people coming to me for hypnotherapy. People will sit in the chair opposite me and tell me they're skeptical. That's okay. I don't mind, they can be skeptical, that's fine. But they're there in the chair, so there's a part of them that wants to know more, you know, so, you know, and that's the thing. And sometimes it's not about understanding, it's just about recognizing that it does something. And there's no doubt in my mind, not just from my own experiences, but what I've seen with my clients, is color does something, and we don't need to fully understand the science of it. In a way, there is, as you say, color has been around for centuries, so there's a great backlog of great information on color, but it's just being open, isn't it, to trying different things, and as you say, feeling into it, so it takes you out of that overthinking into the body. And then you're then not focusing on everything that's been swirling around in your mind, and you're just bringing, you know, some sort of structure, and you're already beginning to bring the healing in as well. But again, it's just getting you out of that overthinking mode as well that helps a lot, doesn't it?
I think so. I think overthinking, you know, I mean, that is very yellow. So and then the complementary to yellow is violet. So I think I've got a violet here. So we also look at complementary. So we go, you know, am I doing a bit of yellow? Am I doing violet? So then we can look at the violet if somebody's overthinking things or stressed or in fear, and we could go, okay, maybe there's a bit of element of grief and sadness that's hidden behind the fear or the anxiety that's coming up. And, you know, we can start to work and work with somebody that we extrapolate what is going on. And the thing is that holistic therapy is a stepping stone. And I think we're all evolving. We all make choices as we go through our lives. We're all getting older, and the journey is very personal. You know, it's very unique to you, and it's very unique to me. And a lot of people might see a starting point to help them through depression or anxiety or whatever by going to the doctor and getting medication because they just don't understand what's going on. And that's okay. The link that holistic therapists work with is that and this is why I do talk about the bigger picture, because holistic therapy looks at the whole picture. So we're actually saying to you, your body is information, your emotional feeling is information, and your mind and what's going on with your processing is information. Let's holistically look at you as a whole being, mind, body, and soul, and let's start to help you to understand some of the things that have been going on for you could relate back to trauma, could relate back to those really early beliefs that we create about ourselves, that we don't magically just disappear them, but we understand them. And we don't understand them just from a thinking perspective, you know, oh, I get this now, that's okay. We understand it from an embodied, really in the body, in the mind, body, and soul. And I think you mentioned earlier you said something about me seeking out joy. I don't seek it out. I feel it. It comes from in me first. And that's kind of the stepping stones. This is the kind of the way in which we start to move through life when we begin to have a bigger understanding of ourselves. And it is about understanding ourselves in a way in which no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to change for you. You cannot change other people. You can only change yourself, and you can only change and make those changes when you're willing to take responsibility for yourself and say, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. For some people, taking that responsibility can feel like a bit of a big thing, you know, it's like, I don't want to, or that journey just seems too hard. The expectation of getting to where they want to be just seems too hard, that they're too scared by the process, whatever reason, you know, whether it's because they feel they have to address something they don't want to address. They might, you know, have a good idea why they're struggling but not want to address it, or, as I say, or be too scared of what's on the other side when they have released all of that, if you like, baggage. What would you say to anybody who is scared for whatever reason by the process?
Yeah, I think and I hear that, and I'm, you know, if anyone is scared or in pain or you know, fearful about taking that step, I think I mean, I hear you and I feel you, and I'm just so sorry that you know, that somebody would be feeling that hard, you know, that difficult. I know when I was having my panic attacks, and I know when I was, you know, literally had my breakdown of walking around crying, I couldn't imagine anything else. I didn't know. I wasn't in a state to be able to do that. So I think anybody listening to this for a start is going to be, you've got it. You've got that. You've taken that first step. You know, that's it. And if you're coming to a holistic therapist or somebody that works with color or hypnotherapy or whatever, essential oils or whatever the other holistic therapies you're choosing, just the fact that you've even searched for a name, take that as an achievement, that you've even looked into it, you've made a call. And I think we just give yourself permission to just recognize that you've taken steps already, and that's okay. And sometimes it is so scary and overwhelming that's why color can work in a very profound way, because you can choose the bottles without necessarily needing to go, right, I'm going to go into Pandora's box and open the whole thing up, because you can take your time. There's no I've got to be doing it by this starting now and finishing then, that's it. You know, we've lived in a very goal orientated, motivated world, and I don't believe in those. I believe in intentions. I believe in allowing things to happen when they're meant to happen. I believe in give and receive. And I think it's just why I see the bigger picture is because my work becomes more of, and I say spiritual, we've talked about being spiritual, but it becomes more about looking at the whole picture as we are part of something bigger than us. You know, we've got a soul, we've got a higher perspective, there's a universe out there, and yet at the same time we are really this amazing beings that are here, very present on Earth, going through an incredibly difficult time in our planetary evolution, in our human evolution.
And I think if someone does go to a therapist as such, you know, holistic type therapist, then that person is there to support you through the journey, so you're not in it alone. That's the other thing to remember. And also
that sorry, I thought you kind of take it for granted, don't you? Of course you're supported. I mean anybody wanting to take that step is fully supported by the person that they're working with. And you know, you can do that online, you can do that in person, and body to body. Obviously we're missing that at the moment under these restrictions, but you know, being with somebody and holding that space with somebody energetically is so important. But I want you to celebrate that. I want anybody to celebrate that they've got there, they've made a step, and recognize that you've made the first step on your journey, and that therapist is there to support you. And if they're not, sack them. The thing is that when we get started, there's so much richness, isn't it? And I think when you've been in a place where I know what it's like to feel dark and feel so hopeless and to feel angry beyond belief. We have, as humans, we have these range of emotions, and I know it from feeling angry last night. You know, I had my little 4-year-old. I had an inner child that came out and just had this massive. I was like, okay, I can feel that. You know, I had to go through, what is it? Why am I reacting like this? What is this triggering in me? Why am I feeling this way? the gift is being able to ask myself those questions. The gift is knowing that I don't have to stay like that. The wonderment is that that's not who I am. That's just me reacting to something and feeling helpless in the moment. And I think that when you start to understand yourself better, when you start to come from you, we can move into loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, appreciating ourselves, feeling gratitude, feeling joy. I mean, who doesn't want that? You know, who doesn't want to feel so wonderful? And it's not all the time. It goes up and down. It's like being on a boat, you know. We kind of go in and out, up the waves, down the waves. But we've learned the tools to be able to manage ourselves. And that's what happens when you go to a therapist, when you start therapy, when you start exploring and opening up. You start to find a world outside there, cornucopia of gorgeousness.
I think it's a very empowering process. It's definitely something that I've found and I've seen with my clients. For me, one of the things that I felt I sort of got out of particularly the colours was a lot more inner peace. And the other thing is I ask myself the questions nowadays, what do I want to experience? And most of it is really simple. You know, it's not complex. I want to feel peace. I don't need sort of lots of materialistic things. Yeah. I mean, anyone who knows me, I am the mad cat woman, and I'm happiest at home doing my writing and having my cats with me. And that brings me so much joy. And I think sometimes we can lose that in this really modern world, particularly with things like social media, where sometimes people can get a bit too drawn into, you know, what everyone else is doing and assuming that everybody else's lives are perfect, because that's what they're portraying to the world through their social media window, but it is just a window. So I think it is about asking that question, what do I really want? And it probably goes back to that, as you've talked about, sort of feeling it. What do I really want to feel? When does my body, you said alignment was part of what we were talking about at the very, very beginning, in describing what you do. And so alignment is that as well, isn't it? I mean, alignment's many things. It's a physical alignment, but also just being in alignment. How is there a way you would sort of maybe describe what that might feel like? I think you sort of did in a way when you were talking about joy and that side of things, but what for you, for instance, would be alignment?
I tend to look at being in alignment with myself or my life is about following my truth and actually following my passion. And I think passion is before belief, purpose. And I think people want to try and find a purpose, and they feel that they have to have some sort of meaning and to their life, and therefore they might look at social media or compare themselves to other people that they see, or celebrities or whatever. And I've worked with a lot of celebrities. I've met a lot of them, so they're no different from anybody else. And why would we want to be somebody else? So I think the thing is that being in alignment is, for me, about waking up every day and going, what is it that what brings me joy? What do I feel like I want in my life? And it brings me joy to walk my dog and be with my animals. Yes, it does. You know, it brings me joy to have a connection with my friends. It brings me joy to go into the nature or go to the sea or do whatever those things are. So, and also being passionate about what I do. And that's how I come into alignment. And I come into it mind, body and soul, because I go, I know I've experienced it. I might want to go down a path and think that that's going to all happen because I've got this great idea, and it is my passion. Does bring me joy, working with people in a way in which I wanted to have a center. I wanted to bring people. I wanted it to be a space where people can come and be, because I know what a gift that would be. But and that was my joy, my passion, and my purpose. But it just doesn't. It wasn't working. It wasn't coming into manifest. And so therefore we then find and go, okay, well, can I still feel passion or joy or peace or whatever calmness, whatever it is, can I still feel that despite something I think I want not happening? So alignment is again, it is emotionally connecting your emotions with your thoughts. It's connecting with your body. I don't think we can do it without all three, and our soul, really. So our emotional body, our physical body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. I think we do it as a whole. We don't just do one. And that's alignment. That's kind of that space of being present. Alignment's being present.
And the types of clients that might come to you, I don't know if there is a type, but is there anything you could say about, what type of people would generally come to you? Is it someone who does recognize a pattern, or is it even before that point where they're just like, I just hate my life and I need someone to help me sort my life out? Is it sometimes that?
The type of client that comes to me is so different, because I see a lot of people when I do the mind body spirit fairs. I take the color bottles, and I got a few clients from there. But I think it's very different from traditional counseling. And I had a lot of people that would come to me that would just go, oh no, I want to talk about my problem. And I go, no, choose a bottle, choose a color, let's do this exercise or that. And I would find that they just wanted to talk because they were still so stuck in their head, and I do exercises with people where, because of being an actress and understanding that everything is coming through the body, I'll get somebody to stand up and go, okay, well, feel that emotion. Or if you're saying that it's not fair that my boss gets to take extra leave and I don't. So I would say, well, let's practice putting that into a voice, and using a little bit of transaction analysis, Eric Burns' work. Okay, so let's be the adult, let's be the parent. It's not fair. It's not fair that person is getting. Okay, now let's be the child. It's not fair. Let's come into an adult space, and so we can find out where that's coming from, where the not fair belief is coming from. It's not fair, and it's like so bodily people do it. So I get people to kind of act things out. It's not for everyone, and it just depends on where that person is and that client is. I get different clients. There's no way to say there's one person is the type. I get a lot of therapists coming to me because of the way I view things. I take that bigger picture, because it's always, everything's going on as a mirror. So anything that's going on in life, if somebody's coming to me going, well, it's not fair that my boss has got the promotion, I'll be like, okay, well, let's look at where that is in you, because you're creating it in order to have your life. So it's kind of a I would love to say, in a very kind of marketing or a very practical or a very logistical way, you can get this on the packet and open the tin and this is what I do, there you go. I just don't,
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it is, you've got to experience it, haven't you? It's just one of those things, you've got to sort of be prepared to get in touch and to take yourself on that journey in a way. And it is a very rewarding journey to do that. And you find out a lot about yourself. It becomes more empowering to you as a person, and you stop being so triggered in life. I think that's the other thing. We can all be so triggered by often small things. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or whatever about myself is I'm so much less triggered and react a lot less than I would have done years ago, you know, because I look at things and I think, well, what if I react to that? What's the possible outcomes? I think it's a result of my own fatigue that has made me, if you like, protect myself a little bit more. And maybe there's something in the need to protect, but that's sort of where I'm at, and that's another story maybe. But, you know, so I would look at something and go, well, if I react to that, what's the possible outcomes? And if I look at one of those outcomes and I think that's probably going to create me stress, then I might say I'm not going to react because I don't want to go to that stress point. I don't need to go to that stress point. And sometimes I just look at somebody else who might be trying to create a drama in my life and think, well, that's your drama. I don't need to go there. I don't need to react to your drama. So it is hard to put into words how going through these processes can be so much, you know, improve your life so much, because everyone will have their own experiences based on what triggers them. So you just got to dive in and give it a shot, really. And it's if you just want to change something in your life, I think that's it, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think, you know, quite often people might want to change their weight, or they might want to change a habit that they've got, whether it's smoking or drinking or whatever, or they might want to change something that they feel very stressed about, which is a relationship or a job, or, you know, have anxiety or a phobia. You know, those are kind of like really traditional things that people find difficult. And I think holistic therapy works perfectly for those, because as a therapist, we come about it in a way in which we see you as a whole, and it might be that's what you just need at the time. You just want your phobia fixed, and you want you want to go flying, you want to go to Tenerife for the holiday, so you want to get on a boat, so you want to get on a plane, I mean. So sometimes we want just something instantly, you know. And I think some of the work that we do, and perhaps my work, it might be different, is that I'm not the person that will just help you to fix the giving up smoking, or the weight, or the whatever, or the phobia. I guess I'm somebody that will ask you to go, I guess not ask you to go deeper, but in a way, yes. I mean, it will just be like, you will come to me because you were ready to go deeper and for longer than just something that you want to fix that's presenting to you in your life right now. But holistic therapy, from hypnotherapy through to EFT, through to heart math, through to color mirrors. I mean, the color mirror system, definitely. You know, through to aromatherapy, or through to whatever. Those are wonderful tools that can help you in an instant, and help you to make a shift from A to B, which is what we all want to do. We want to go from, I don't like where I am here, I want to get to there. How do I do that?
Yeah, I think those types of therapies just bring something different. And I think, as you said, it's about going deeper, and it is empowering. The word I always tend to go back to is empowering, because to feel empowered is not about a physical strength thing. It's just about feeling so much better in life. So I feel like there's lots more we can talk about, and I'm sure we will. But if people wanted to sort of follow you or get in touch, what are good sort of sources to do that? A website or anything else?
Yeah, thank you for asking about how to follow me. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, which is I think it's under Reconnect Source Within, and I have a Facebook page which is Reconnect Source Within. And because, again, it's about reconnecting to your own source within. I mean, that's the fundamental basis of empowerment. And on those sites, so on my YouTube or on the Facebook page, you know, I've done lots of videos about the color mirror system. I've done lots of videos where I've just been out walking and something's come to me. I do have a website as well, which is katherinelouisejones.com. So you can find out more information. I think we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, which was, you know, it's important that you like your therapist. So I always offer a 20-minute free consultation, because it's important that I like you as much as you like me. If we don't match, then we're not gonna have a great relationship. So yeah, so absolutely, if people want to seek me out, then please do, and I completely trust that you know, whoever listens, whoever comes, can do that for you and to do that for me, because it's abundance, you know. It's we can all be there to support people.
Yeah, brilliant, Katherine. Thank you for your time, and no doubt, like I say, we'll have a chat